Time for NFL Betting Blitz, week 2 of the Sunday NFL slate. We come off of a Thursday night football game. It's kind of a little bit of an ugly game. It tends to happen in those Thursday night games, Eric, where the routine's a little bit off. Players aren't completely rested from week 1. It's sometimes a little sloppy, a little ugly. Eagles ran the ball well. They've won both games so far. They haven't necessarily looked dominating or like a team that was imposing their will both weeks. But hey, if you can get 2 wins and not play your best football, probably pretty happy with that, right?
2 wins, not playing best. Hurts really has happy feet. His footwork wasn't on point from what I saw in the game. I haven't rewatched it. We talked about during our preseason videos how the Vikings were due for some, regression, and they are regressing.
Already 2 weeks, we're seeing all the things that bounced their way last year, not bouncing their way so far this year. A couple things to mention about today's show. It is presented by ParlayPlay. We're going to talk about ParlayPlay at the end of our show. We'll do a little segment where we both build a parlay. If you want some action today, if you're looking for a place to get involved, check out ParlayPlay. You'll find out more in just a bit. NFL Betting Blitz is the promo code you want to use when you make your deposits there. So, Eric, we also let folks know, if you're somewhere in the state of Iowa, sign up for a DRF Sportsbook account and use the promo code FAST350, all the way up to a $350 deposit match bonus. Eric, we are going to look at the betting lines right now from DRF Sportsbook as we head through the day's wagers. Cincinnati Bengals are a 3.5-point favorite right now over the Baltimore Ravens. Lots of injuries in this game for Baltimore after week 1. Couple injuries on the offensive line, in the secondary, defensive front. They're banged up quite a bit already. And you have a Bengals team, really big overreaction from week 1, right? They're better than they looked. They weren't ready. Burrow wasn't playing in a lot of camp. They just looked like a team who hadn't practiced together a lot. And for whatever reason, the Browns dominate the Bengals in recent history. I think they're 1-5. The Bengals are against the Browns in the last 6 games. I'm not a huge fan of this number at 3.5. I know you got this number earlier in the week at 3 before all the injury news really started piling up for Baltimore, right?
Yeah, I gave this one out on my show every Tuesday night, 10 p.m. Eastern. I took it at 3. Burrow, 58% ATS as a home favorite. Look, it's all about buying low, selling high. One of the big trends that you're going to hear me mention is teams that lost by double digits playing a team that didn't lose by double digits. 67% ATS this week.
Is that 3? That happened 3 times this week, I think?
There's a lot of games like this.
There was at least 3 that I counted, but this was one of them. Keep going.
So, and then Ravens, I'll be honest, I really didn't think the Ravens looked that good.
No.
Lamar's passes were sailing. Still,
Texans outgained them in total yards.
Yep, bottom 3rd in the league, throwing to the outside, middle to the bottom, throwing to the inside. Now you're down 2 starting offensive linemen, 3 from last year's starting group. I think this defensive line of the Bengals is going to look to get home against the Ravens. Lamar is not looking to run as much. If he's not looking to run as much, that takes some dynamic playmaking away. Dobbins banged up. Marcus Williams, Humphreys, tons of just injuries. Jamar Chase averages 7.5 receptions, buck 15.5. Down in the DB room, how are you going to be able to stop him? Look, I got the 3. Even at 3.5, I'd probably play the Bengals.
I definitely wouldn't be playing the Ravens. We can do this sometimes too. Like, my buy-in point on the Ravens is probably like 5.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that would be the number where I would start thinking about playing the Ravens. So we're still not really close to me wanting to jump in on that side.
Or you could just wait. I mean, like the way
that's what I mean. You don't have to feel forced in situations like that ever.
The way betting is now, there's so much value live betting if you miss the number. So don't force a bet. Just kind of judge and just kind of go with it.
Thanks, everyone, for hanging out with us here today on NFL Betting Blitz. Erik, I want to run through some of the inactives as we get ready to move to the second game. Just sort of going through what Ian Rappaport had been tweeting earlier this morning. Brandon Cooks didn't practice this week, not expected to go today. Aaron Jones and Christian Watson not expected to go today. CJ Stroud, Texans QB, is expected to play today. Joey Bosa, hamstring soreness. Optimism, he goes today. Austin Eckler out. DeAndre Hopkins, he will be playing today. He's listed as questionable. I think those are some of the main ones that we were kind of wondering about this week. I'll keep monitoring and see if we see anything else coming from Rappaport or Shefty in the next little bit. Titans first round guard inactive today, needed an appendectomy. There was another one that came through, and yeah, they're talking about just some other notes here. Justin Fields wants to air it out. Mark Andrews will play, and the Falcons expect them to split carries. Just in a quick side note, was that something you expected with Atlanta? Did you think Bijan would be more of a dominant? Do you still think he would? Or do you think since they're so focused on the run that they may use the two of them in different ways?
I mean, in this day and age of the NFL, there's not really a true bell cow back. Those days are kind of long behind. I still think by the end of the day, end of the year, it'll be a 65% carry share for Bijan. I was a little bit more, I was a little bit shocked Algier was used as much as he was, but they're pretty clear what they're going to do. They're just going to lean on the run, play good defense, put Ritter in a situation to be successful. Maybe he gets a little bit more confident throwing the ball as the season goes on. But yeah, I think it's going to continue for the next couple of weeks. Then maybe toward the middle part of the season, we'll see Bijan having that 65% carry share.
Erik, let's keep rolling along, buddy, as we look at the lines at DRF Sportsbook. We're up to Bears at Bucks. This number's been dancing around a little bit. It was right around 3, and now it's sort of shifted towards the Bears. What do you think about the number here? Chicago looked really bad week 1. They allowed Green Bay to score 38 points. They scored the most any team in week 1. Bears were 3 of 13 on third down. The play calling was predictable. Nothing creative. They got a pathetic effort from Chase Claypool. There's video footage floating all around online of the effort that he was putting in. Justin Fields is only 5-26 right now through 26 games, tied for the second worst record of all time. Offensive line was miserable. They're going to need to be better because the Tampa defensive line is at least solid. And my guy Baker was cooking some stuff up last week. Baker looked good, limited. He's not going to rack up 350 yards type games, but Baker can still make plays in spots, and that's what he did last week for that team. I think the guys probably liked seeing Baker pick up a couple big first downs running. That's what you want from him. It's tough to sort of trust him week in, week out to give you that consistent level of play, but his highs can still be very high. The problem is the lows can still be very low. That's the problem with Baker, is that wide range here. They still can't run the ball over there at Tampa. And again, is it going to impact them that much against a team like the Bears, Erik? I don't know, because, the Bears don't have the most imposing defense in the world. So, Erik, I'm going to set this one up for a second. Do you have something going on? I know you said you had a small emergency there. Do you need to handle that?
No.
Okay.
It's just a toaster.
Okay, it was not no fire. I was like, Erik, you need to wait till later in Sunday to get on fire with your picks, not actually on fire.
Unexpected.
So we're on Tampa and the Bears, not to.
So the main thing that stood out to me for this was exactly Baker Mayfield saying he was able to pick up on the Vikings' defensive signals during the game, calling out the plays, saying, "Hey, this is what's going on. This is what's happening. Blah 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 blah." That really stood out to me. Don't really expect that stuff from out of everyone. Baker Mayfield. The trend here obviously supports taking the Bears. A lot of weird stuff going on. Like, you read these beat reporter stuff. Some of them are saying this is the weirdest week at Hallis Hall there's ever been. Owner coming in, meeting with Eberflus, meeting with Pools, saying how disappointing he was in the team's performance. Multiple players not being there. Defensive coordinator not being there. I don't know. The trends say to take the Bears. Possibly some weather issues. Claypool, like you mentioned, really just checked out. I don't know what to do here. I'm just gonna stick away. I think
Me
Mike
too.
Evans is a good DFS play. Fields should have some success throwing against this defense. But yeah, I'm just gonna stay away.
Eric, let's keep rolling along. Where do we head next? We head to the Packers and the Falcons. Talk about movement in this game. This number has moved quite a bit in the last couple of days. It's the Jones. Yeah, it's the Jones built in and the Watson, right? Because we thought
I'll be honest,
that
I don't think Watson is worth that much. I thought
no, and
what's Jones was important to them, what they did through the game, through the air and on the ground.
Normally, you don't see a back take those kind of points because we knew all week that Jones was probably not going to play. But as soon as he went for sure out, this thing moved from about a pick 'em at 2 or 3 points, which is pretty. I mean, it's at a key number now with Atlanta. You and I both, I don't know about you. I locked this number in earlier in the week when it was Atlanta +1 and they were plus money on the money line because we weren't sure on that. I will say
when it was,
I wouldn't lay the 3 now. After that, I definitely wouldn't lay more than 3, but I feel like that's 3 points that it's flipped on me right now since when I played it.
We talk about, you can
value.
You can get a better line during the game. Why are you going to force a bet? Just kind of sit back and wait.
This is what sports backs act. I followed you on the Falcons. Now with the line at 3, should I hold or take a position on the Packers +3? I think you hold personally.
Yeah, I mean, if it gets to 3.5.
Me too, completely agree. 3.5 to 4, I'd go the other way. But I do have some concerns now, just from an actual football standpoint. A lot of the positives why we not necessarily liked the Packers in the game last week with their line, but just where we could find success for the Packers this year was leaning on Aaron Jones, leaning on their very strong run game because they have 2 good backs that are completely different. Aaron Jones is actually a quasi wide receiver now, especially with the way their team is built because they don't have a whole lot of proven wide receivers coming back. So now the guys that were projected to be RB1 and wide receiver 1 for you are out, and it's only the second week of your season. You got to go on the road and play a better than talked about Atlanta Falcons defense that stepped up last week.
I will say this, if you follow Gino and I on Romeo Dobbs over 550.5 yards, we're looking pretty good 2 weeks.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, the value's gone. Packers historically struggle to stop the run. I think the Vikings are going to have their way. I think we really don't know what this Packers team is. Are the Bears just god awful or the Packers good? Which is going to show. Do you really trust Love? Falcons defense, I think, is going to be able to handle him a little bit. You just wait, maybe look to take the Falcons live, or the Falcons scoring a touchdown. This game gets over 7 live, then do that. But right now, I'll just stay away.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like there's any value for me in this number right now as well. We keep continuing on through the DRF Sportsbook betting lines. Where do we go next, Eric? Colts at the Texans. This game is basically a pick 'em. Now it's leaning Texans -0.5 point over under 39.5. Another instance where I locked this one in a couple days ago when it was Texans +1, or when it was Texans +1. I took a little value there on the money line for them. As I think we both discussed, who were the Colts to ever be laying points on the road ever? And that was my standpoint with the Texans. And I think, again, something that when we talked on Wednesday, you pointed out, I stole it from you on Friday, and I'm stealing it from you again today. So I stole it from you twice already. I've basically made it my own at this point. The Texans unit in this game, their defense was the best of any of the units, right? Of any Indy offense, Texans offense, Indy defense, Texans defense. The Texans defense by far was the most consistent. They were very good. They were only down 7-6 at half. They had 4 total sacks. They forced 2 turnovers of Lamar. They held Baltimore to less than 270 yards of total offense. But what happened is they got stopped twice on 4th and 1 and 3 times on 4th down. And that just sort of hurt them continuing their possessions and winning the game. And it also made the game look a little bit more tilted in the Ravens' favor than it might have been. I think that game, you and I were talking about it as it was happening. It was closer than that final score might have suggested. It is not like Baltimore dominated that game. So with Houston, with the Texans, Stroud should be playing today. And even if he doesn't, Eric, they have a very serviceable backup quarterback, one of your man crush Mondays in the NFL, that beautiful long neck giraffe, Davis Mills.
Even if Stroud can't go and it's looking like he's going to go, you have Mills serviceable backup. I'm a little concerned about a couple injuries to the offensive line.
Just to not to interrupt, you want to answer this question here? What do you think today?
Yeah, I mean, Moss is the only game in town for the Colts in the backfield. I mean, I think he's like 49, 5,000. He's insanely cheap, and he's going to be getting with no Taylor, Hull hurt. It's basically Moss and Deion Jackson. So I like that play. Schultz actually, here's a fun trivia fact. Schultz led tight ends in routes ran for week 1. So he's definitely going to be getting a lot of routes ran. I think it's a great matchup. Definitely. I actually have one lineup with both these guys in it. In terms of the game, I just am going to fade Anthony Richardson starting on the road. He made that key mistake, the INT that led to the Jags go-ahead score. I'm looking at it like Pierce is a better running back than Etienne. I think the Texans' offensive line is a little bit better than the Jaguars' offensive line. I think that they're going to be able to run the ball. They're going to lean on Pierce. And I'm just going to fade a rookie quarterback starting his first game on the road. I'll take the Texans here.
One thing that I think for sure, coming into the year, I thought the Texans' secondary would be strong. And I do think that's the case still. And that might make life very difficult on someone like Richardson here, because we already know his weakness is throwing the ball down the field, making his progressions, hitting tough throws. He can run a little bit, but if his receivers are locked up and they're not getting separation here, he may force a couple bad throws. I actually picked up the Texans defense in a fantasy league today too. I think they could be a very interesting defense to play. If you're looking for a DFS defense or even, in a season-long fantasy. I had some of them I'll play, streaming. Last week I had the Falcons, who played really well. I wasn't sure if I wanted to hold on to the Falcons for this week against Green Bay, so I dropped the Falcons for the Texans, who I think are in a good spot. Like you mentioned, at home against a rookie quarterback who was a little bit banged up. They don't have very many options in the backfield as far as running backs. Last week, Deion Jackson had one of the worst games that a running back will ever have based on like fumbles and his running back air yards. It was just
kind of piggybacks the Moss thought.
Yep, exactly. So Texans, we both lean. Let's keep rolling, Eric, as we get to Chiefs and the Jags.
I'm in on the Texans.
All in, right? And it's not going to matter because this game starts in an hour and a half, but I would take the Texans all the way up to close to 3 here.
Yeah,
myself.
Anything under 3 I like.
And that's so I felt like there's a few points built into that number that reminds me of one of the numbers like yesterday when you and I were talking about college football. One of the numbers that jumped off the page to us was Tennessee's a 6.5 point favorite on the road at Florida. That just felt weird. Looking at it, it felt weird. Chiefs, Jags. So for the Chiefs, a couple of the big boys will be back today, Kelsey and Chris Jones. They're a 3-point favorite on the road here at Jacksonville. These two teams played in the playoffs last year. You and I were a little low on Jacksonville coming into the year. Just overall on their perception was really high. A lot of folks have them taking a big step forward this year. I'm not quite sure how great their defense or the offensive line is. Those could be two things that get hurt a little bit in this game, Eric. A few days ago, this number was 3.5. I never would have thought about it there. I still am not going to go line up to bet laying a number on the road like this. Because I don't like the number, but I will say in my analysis of this game, I think the Chiefs are going to win big. I agree with let's make money, but that doesn't mean I'm just going to go all in on bad numbers. It's not as bad as it was before with the 3 versus the 3.5, but my analysis is a little bit higher on the Chiefs because I think they come out of your Lions game a little unlucky, right? All those drops, 5 drops, 3 by Tony. They didn't have Kelsey. They didn't have Jones. Now Jones has had about a week or so to practice. I think they'll be a little better there. You've got some more time with Mahomes to get a little comfortable with his new receivers. He had a lot of new players out there running routes that he hadn't been familiar with before. So I think they will play well. But again, it's not something I love doing, and I'm not excited. And I will wait for this game to play live and see if I can get a better number, because I don't need to go lay 3 on the road. But I still feel like the Chiefs are the gonna play well in here. Did you lock in the Jags at a better number earlier in the week at 3.5? I think you did, right?
Oh, I have nothing here.
Nothing here. Okay.
Nothing here. I mean, Mahomes is so good under that number of 3. Short favorites is usually what he covers as. Bounce back spot. I wanted to take the Chiefs. It opened at 2.5. I thought about it hard, but at the end of the day, like, I'm just so disciplined at not taking teams on the road, laying points required to win by margin. I just completely passed. I'm sitting this one out. I do think, though, that interesting DFS play, take a deep breath, is Kadarius Toney. One's gonna be
absolutely.
That's
as Toney. Gamblers, we almost blindly have to do this, right? Like, when guys have really bad games, you got to take a note right away to play them next week, because very few people are going to want to do that. It's just a popular way of playing. Anytime you can go anti and you're against the grain, you're probably already in a good spot. I have him locked in 2 different lineups already. And I wouldn't have any problem with Toney first TD. It almost feels like something they're going to try to do just to get it. Hey, let's get him a couple catches, and then it's just not even a thing anymore. Right? Like, it becomes like that was a week 1 thing, and we're not even talking about the drops anymore.
Yeah. You know? I mean, I think they look to get him going early. Kelsey could be a decoy too. Like, really, You don't really know what Kelsey's going to be doing. So,
yep.
Yeah. Well, I wonder what the number that is.
Yeah. The Jags have shifted down to a 3-point home dog now, over under 50.5 there. Chargers, Titans, another instance where, hey, I feel pretty good, Eric, about a lot of our plays this week. Win or lose, we got on the right side of the numbers.
Yep.
On a bunch of them. We were on the right side of movement. And if you're on the right side of a line movement, you will generally win in this, or you'll do a lot better than most people. Titans were a 3-point dog at home a little earlier in the week. It's now shifted down to Chargers -2.5. I mean, I still like the Titans in the spot with the number. Obviously, I wanted the 3, and we got the 3 versus the 2.5 here. But the Chargers defense was pathetic. They were awful in particular against the pass. Now you have a Tennessee team and a Titans team that struggled throwing the ball last week, but we know they're a little better than that. Tannehill isn't quite that bad. If he is, and he shows up this bad again this week, then I think they're going to make a quarterback change there in Tennessee. Like, I don't think they're going to keep going through it.
They don't have anybody, though.
That's the problem, is that they're going to have to go get a veteran or make some sort of a move, because you're right. Like, they don't have good options. That's why he's out there, because you don't have great backups. This may be a situation where they go get a Jameis or someone like that, right? One of those backups that's out there that you can hopefully bring in and just fill the role for you, hand the ball off to Henry. Because if Tannehill makes 1 pass to Okanakwo, they win this game. He's one of my plays this week. I like Okanakwo a little bit, the tight end, if you're looking in like DFS. He was wide open down the sideline for what would have been a huge touchdown. He was badly overthrown. I like that he was on the field for 96% of the offensive snaps in 12 and 21 personnel. Played a clear majority of snaps in 11 personnel. Only time he was off the field in that personnel group was on a couple early downs for run blocking. And the Saints were also the best at preventing fantasy points to tight ends last year. So he was in a tough matchup. He got overthrown a couple times. He was on the field a bunch. And I think they will operate better against the pass this week, because the Chargers were awful against the pass last week. I like the Titans. I like Okanakwo as a DFS play for today. Talk about the number a little bit, though. Oh, yeah, maybe you get a Carson Wentz showing, right? Does Wentz show up for the Titans somewhere?
I took the Titans here plus the 3 at 2.5. Honestly, I'm not going to lie. I wouldn't play it.
Me neither.
Vrabel as a dog, 24-15-1. That's 61.5% ATS. As a dog, when he's getting 3 points or more, 23-9-1. That's 71.9%. So I'm getting the better coach at home. I'm getting points. And we all know the second half is all about adjustments and everything. The main thing that stood out to me is Herbert is like 15-30 ATS second half. 15-30-1, I believe. That just shows there's just no second half adjustments going in. I know there's questions about them being able to stop the passing attack. I'm going to trust Vrabel to come up with a system against the Dolphins with no Armstead. No Armstead. The Chargers had 0 sacks. So I think the offensive line of the Titans can control the point of attack. I think this is going to set up a big day for Henry, set up the play action, be able to pick apart this Chargers defense. I like the Titans here plus the 3.
Think about it. No Eckler also for the Chargers, who's a big part of their offense, a big piece of what they do. We're both on the Titans side at this one. We got the better of the number, but we still think the Titans are the play. Again, though, if you're just watching this, you didn't play 3, I would not recommend you to go play the 2.5. I would wait, try to find better value, or look for a game that you just like a little bit better. It's all about the numbers, and the difference between a 2.5 and a 3 is huge. Let's go Raiders, Bills, Eric. This was one of my kind of stay away games. Allen and the Bills have been sloppy lately. So many turnovers. Then on the Raiders side, their offense actually looked pretty good. They're not a team that I like in this situation, though. Traveling east, playing an early game, going on the road. I'm staying away. It's a big number. I want to get in on the Raiders side, but I feel like this could be bounce back game for the Bills, really come out, like wipe them out with the Raiders. I'm staying away from this one.
I mean, my thing is this is the bounce back of bounce backs. We talk about DFS stuff. If there's ever going to be a game where Allen just kind of balls out, this is going to be the game. Maybe Stephon Diggs. I know he's getting a lot of crap from the Buffalo media. Maybe this is a game where they get him going. In terms of the Raiders, no Jacoby Myers. Myers is really big in what they did in week 1. Diggs has a great matchup against the Raiders secondary. And we need to remember, all I'm hearing is Allen and turnovers. Just take out when he got hurt. Look at when he got hurt pre and post. And we need to remember this Jets defense is just built to stop one team. And that's the Buffalo Bills. So I would kind of pump the brakes. Allen is going to be, this is probably going to be Allen's lowest ownership in terms of the millionaire maker for the year. So I would look to take him in that. If this kind of gets down to a 7-ish in game, oh my God, I'm going to be firing away on the Bills. But pre-flop, this is just a pure stay away from me. The only hope for the Raiders to make this competitive, Josh Jacobs is going to have to control the game. He's going to have a monster game. I'm looking at some books. Some books have this down all the way to 7.5. So maybe this will trickle down to 7 pre-flop.
Next game up on the DRF Sportsbook betting lines, Seahawks at the Lions. This number has moved a bit, Eric. It was all the way up to 6 a few days ago when you punched it on Seattle. Now we're down to Detroit 4.5. This feels more like where it should be, right? I think like 4-ish, 4.5. We were getting a little too much value there on Seattle as it was bumping up to 6. So I can understand why you jumped in there on 6. Would you get involved at all? Anyone that's just watching this show right now, would you tell them to go one way or the other on this number?
I would still take him. I mean,
you'd still take Seattle.
I would still take Seattle. This was 2.5, 3. And this ballooned all the way up to 6. Anything over 3, I still like. Carroll as a dog, 47-31-3. That's 60% ATS. After a loss, he's 57.9%. Seahawks fit the trend. double-digit team. Playing a team on the road, 67%. But when the team that lost by double digits is on the road, they're 24-1. Against the 24-1 against it. That's a pretty big sample size, pretty big trend. We need to remember this Lions team. I'm a Lions fan. I'm rocking one of my Detroit hacks right now. They only were able to generate 14 points against the Chiefs defense with no Chris Jones.
Scored on a pick six.
Chiefs didn't have Kelsey, who's their key. I mean, there's two guys that are huge on third downs, Kelsey and Cooper Kupp. Not having them there was huge. If Tony is able to make some catches and the Chiefs win that game, this line's going to be 3. I think I'm getting extra value. Also, who's going to stop DK? We need to remember, I think this DK matchup in terms of DFS and prop betting is getting a little bit skewed. JJ, a converted safety, is the Lions cornerback because Emmanuel Mosley's out. He's going to be covering DK. The grades and everything are completely off in my eyes because of the absorbent amount of drops that Kadarius Toney had. DK Metcalf is a great value play in DFS. On my podcast that comes out every Friday, my buddy Nick comes on. Nick had all these stats why DK is the guy you need to target in terms of your DFS plays. Laporta, pretty good too if you're looking for another player prop. Seattle gave up an absorbent amount of production to Higbee last week. They're one of the worst in the league last year. I think that trend's going to continue. But in terms of sides, I'll take Seattle here, anything over 3.
Yeah, I'm going to stay away because it scares the hell out of me how bad Seattle looked. And what's hard for me in this game was my perception of the Rams this year was so bad coming into the season. I thought the Rams were going to struggle. And the Rams kicked the crap out of the Seahawks last week. They had 300 total yards plus in the second half. Matt Stafford looked incredible, and the Seahawks couldn't move the ball at all offensively. So I'm the fan of the Rams is why I'm still clouded by this game, because what the Rams did the Seahawks last week, I have a tough time getting back on Seattle here, but they're no doubt better than they were in that game. But I am a little scared as to what sort of your thoughts are on Seattle were coming into the year, that maybe last year was just a really good year for them where things bounced really well, and maybe they're not quite that good and Geno Smith comes back to life and maybe they're like just an 8 to 9 win team at most.
Yeah, I mean, it's counting on Geno is just tough. I mean, Geno just didn't look.
Hey, man, I don't like what you said right there. Counting on Geno is tough? Come on, man.
Geno Smith. Counting on Geno.
There we go. Okay.
I don't know.
Counting on Eric. What I start talking about? I'm talking about Eric Kendricks. I'm sorry, man.
Yeah, I think they're due for a little regression, but I think the West is a little more wide open than people think.
Mentioned great college football day yesterday. Should have bet Miami on the money line.
Yes, that's funny. Like, he's like the 20th person to send me that message. Like, should have bet Miami on the money line. I know I should have. I didn't take the 430. I hate taking those big dog. If that game would have been at Miami, I totally took Miami money line. But since it was at Cincinnati, I passed. Great win for the Red Hawks. Now I can't wait to fade them next week against Delaware State.
Yeah, I saw Colorado being mentioned in a couple of things too, which was one of those, like, as a fan of football, no involvement in that game at all. I was furious watching that game down the stretch at how Colorado State was executing. I don't like using the word choke. That was the biggest choke job I can remember seeing, up 11 down the stretch. They committed 170 yards of penalty yardage. 170 yards of penalty yardage in that game. They had a fumble going in for a score, and they threw a pick six. It was like, you're watching the game, they were dominating Colorado. Absolutely dominating them the entire game. Colorado was lucky to be able to get that late score. There were 2 different times where Colorado State had the ball with like 4th down and 2 and a chance to just win the game and run the clock out. And both times they punted. It was like, I was watching the game going like, and again, if you backed Colorado State, anyone that did, like Eric did, you won, you covered. It wasn't even close. But just from a what are they doing standpoint, as I'm watching this game, my dad's, who's never up late, was up late watching the game because he was shocked, and he's calling me every few minutes like, what's going on here? What are they doing? It was really one of those types of games. And
yeah, then, I fell asleep. I'm not gonna lie.
That was as I was watching that, and my dad was calling me, I was thinking, well, there's no way in hell Erik is watching this game right now. And it didn't matter for you because you had a big number and you knew you were going to cover that one throughout the Colorado State game. Talk about Colorado next week playing Oregon. They're going to step up in class now. They may, what their schedule looks like moving forward, they've got 6, maybe 7 losses coming up based on the teams they have. So we'll see if they can continue to step up and maybe beat some teams that they're not supposed to beat. They were supposed to win that game last night as like a 25-point favorite. Arizona Giants. Arizona is now a 4-point home dog. This number has moved a little bit. It was closer to 6, but I think, Erik, that was too high. We were all saying, who are the Giants to be laying that big of a number going on the road, watching how dismal they looked last week. And it is a short week for them too. Keep in mind, they played on Sunday night and now they're traveling, going on the road and playing Sunday earlier here. I don't know what to take out of the game from the Giants last week. It was one of those games against Dallas where I think you just burned the film because it was so bad. They got behind early. My guy Keanu in the replacements calls it quicksand. One thing starts to go and then the other, and then the other, and then they're all going and you're trying to battle upstream and you're in quicksand. And then Orlando Jones tells him, man, that's some deep stuff. Shane Falco, footsteps Falco. Love me some replacements. But I didn't know what to do from a number standpoint here. I will tell you what I'm not doing. I'm not laying the number with the Giants on the road. If this number was closer to the 6 or closer to a touchdown, I would jump in on Arizona. I don't think 4 is the number today for me to get in on Arizona. What about for you, Erik?
No, I'm
staying away.
I want nothing to do with this game. Yep. There is the trend, like teams that after they lost like a big game, after they lost by 40 or more, they're 60% against the number. But again, like, do you really trust the Giants laying this big number in terms of Survivor? Hey, this could be a good time to use the Giants.
And I'm fine with it.
What else are you going to use the Giants?
I know. That's exactly it. Because you just think about it right now. You're not going to use them against the teams in their division, most likely. You're not going to ever use them against the Eagles or the Cowboys. Probably not the Commanders. The Commanders just beat the Cardinals, right? So you're 100% right. Like, this is the best situation to use them. I think you use them, and I'm fine with Daniel Jones today, I think, in DFS, because he was so bad last week. I don't know how heavily owned he will be. But I will say, in rewatching the Arizona game, their defense was not bad against Washington. I mean, Washington's offense isn't much, but their defense was the one thing that I thought, you know what? They played well defensively, and if they are going to win a couple games this year, it'll be just like what happened last week. That style of game, right? They get a defensive touchdown. The other team they're playing offensively has a couple turnovers, has a couple mistakes, and they're in the game late with a chance. It's just so hard to get excited about their offense with what we've seen.
Yeah, really hard.
Connor, maybe?
We talked, like Nick talked about it. Connor, he's the only game in town. He's literally the only game in town. Zach Ertz, another guy, led them in targets, led tight ends in targets in the red zone last week. Also, you look at Dobson counting the games when he played for the Titans last year. And this year, tight ends are getting about a 26% target share. So he does tend to target the tight ends. Maybe Ertz would be worth a punt in terms of DFS.
For us who are on the Texan side, no Tunsil today, which offensive line is something you and I point out. Does that change anything for you? I don't love it, right? But is that going to be enough to knock you off of wanting to play Houston?
No, I'm still going to be.
I agree. I agree with that too. I don't think it would be quite enough. The one offensive lineman hurting like that, I'm starting. It's a note. It would be if there were 2 to 3 of them out, then I would make my adjustment right now. If there was like another one of them out, but for now, I'm still okay on that. And as you pointed out, thank you to I Hate the Lakers. Come on. And I'm rocking one of my Lakers shirts right now here. And when my mom and my sister always ask me, any things I want or any kind of gifts, easy stuff they can get me for Christmas. This year on the list for me, the Austin Reeves t-shirt jerseys. Anything I can get Austin Reeves, baby.
Oh,
and my guy from WWE, LA Knight. Yeah, let me talk to you. Those are the 2 ones that I want this year. Austin Reeves and LA Knight. Eric, we move from the Giants Cardinals to our next game. We're going 49ers at the Rams, another number that has trickled down. So shout out to you. You were on the right side of this number. This number was 8, I think even 8.5 a couple days ago.
And I'll be honest, look, I think the 49ers win the game. I really do. But at over a touchdown, the trends and everything say to play the Rams.
Road divisional favorite, heavy favorite, right?
Even though someone said this to me, 65% of the people there are going to be 49ers fans.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's more of just the divisional.
I will say it
getting over
last year. The way it works there is today might not be at 6. Today will probably be closer to a 50-50. When the Rams are bad, like last year, towards the middle to the end of the year, every game they played at home, the opposing team had more fans. When the Rams are good, we don't know if they're good, but at least right now it's early enough in the year and they won, where last week where there might be a crowd that's still excited for the Rams there today. But you are spot on. The Rams and the Chargers both have one of the least advantageous home advantages of any teams in the NFL, because both of those teams are transplant teams. And a team like San Francisco, when I was growing up, Eric, and going to school when I was a kid, and I'm 5 years old and 8 years old and 10 years old, there's no NFL team here, in Los Angeles. So all of my friends or, kids growing up, you look for a team to root for, and people root for the Raiders and the 49ers and the Packers and, just the Cowboys, popular teams all over. So now what happens? Those kids create families, and now those families are 49ers fans or Cowboys fans or whatever fans. And so there was an entire generation of Rams fans in LA. It's just a weird dynamic. The Rams get more support than the Chargers do, but it's a great point to hit as the season gets on. And if the Rams start losing games and they start getting out of the playoff picture early, you really want to lean on those, the opponents that they're playing. A couple questions that are coming in through some of the folks on YouTube that are watching. What about Nelson for the Colts? Any word on him? I haven't seen.
I know he was on the injury report. I have no idea.
Yeah, and another one that just came through right now, maybe if you have in your DFS lineups or fantasy lineups, Amari Cooper, unlikely to play Monday night versus the Steelers for the Browns. We'll talk about that one in just a moment, because that's one of the 2 Monday night games. Eric, we head next to – so at this number right now, at this number –
getting 7 or more for the season. Look, it's 55% ATS. When it's the first 2 weeks, it's 67%.
Yeah.
Just kind of like an inflated number. Look, 49ers are good. 49ers obviously have a chance to win it all. Top 4 or 5 team in the league. But I'm gonna play the trend here. I'm gonna take the Rams.
This next game, I had the least amount of notes of any game this week for my previews. I just have no idea what to do with the Jets and the Cowboys here, because everybody saw the Cowboys. Their defense looks fantastic. The Cowboys didn't have to do anything offensively, and the Jets defense is very good. Very good. So they may have a tough time moving the ball, I have a tough time myself with Zach Wilson playing any sort of number. I think the Jets were very fortunate to have won last week. The defense played well. Like you said, they're sort of built to stop the Bills. Dallas is always going to be overvalued because they're one of those popular teams, but I don't want to touch this with a 10-foot pole.
If this got to 10, 10's my buy-in point. I talked to one of the guys I talked to a lot and whose opinion I insanely respect. And the comment he made to me is that Wilson is actually kind of liked by some of the younger guys on this team. He's going to be able to relate more to guys. So maybe this isn't as big a drop-off as people think, just because Rodgers isn't what he used to be. It's still going to be a run team. They're still going to lean on the run, lean on Hall, lean on Cook. They're just going to do that now about 15, 20% more per game. Wilson will be really limited. They're just going to ask him to not turn over the ball, use his athleticism to extend plays. The question is, do you trust the Cowboys offense laying this big of a number to score enough points against this Jets defense? When you look at DraftKings, Jets defense is insanely underpriced. If you're playing anything in DraftKings today, play the Jets D. It's like $2,700. That opens up so many options for you.
Eric, where do we head next? The Commanders at Denver. This is another number that's right around a key number. The Broncos are a 3.5-point favorite here. The Commanders won week 1. The Broncos did not, and the Broncos only scored 16 points. Just a weird game, though. They only had 6 drives in the game because they did an onside kick, got a little too cute to start, and they had some long scoring drives as well. Honestly, it wasn't the offense's fault, and I thought Russell Wilson played better than what the perception is right now. He played a lot better. Played a lot better than he played last week. They were the number 4 offensive DVOA on the week. Wilson ranked number 4 in EPA plus completion percentage over expectation, and he was number 5 in DYAR. He was number 8 in EPA per play, positive EPA, and they had a very nice success rate. The Commanders' defense saved them. Their offense looked miserable. They looked pitiful. Denver's a tough place to play also. It just is the way that Denver has scored points the last couple of years. I have a hard time laying anything over a field goal with them because they've just had such a tough time scoring repeatedly. They had kicking issues last week too. Will Lutz missed a couple kicks. So if they're missing on the margins and now they're a favorite laying points, I don't think I can do it. I definitely don't want Washington because I could see this being like a really bad. There are versions of this game in my head where Sam Howell looks bad, Washington looks really bad. We get a couple defensive turnovers. They're playing up in the altitude. I don't have positive enough information to play Washington.
For what Brian Robinson is, they need to have Howell under the center. He just can't run from the gun. But for whatever reason, they insist. That's a little bit of a worry point. I was high on this Broncos team. Gregory Clark, who's hurt, who I don't think is going to be playing, no show. Completely MIA. That defensive line against the Raiders and their offensive line.
That was scary.
The thing that really stood out to me was I thought Patrick Surtain played a great game against Devontae Adams. But Mathis, their opposite cornerback, was repeatedly burned by Jacoby Myers. Another guy who I'm going to talk about when we do our parlay plays, Mr. Dotson. I think I did Dotson in my Thrive stuff. I think you can play his props, use him in DFS, play him to score a touchdown. He's got a great matchup against Madison. I think they're really going to target him. You know, Jalen Dotson is a must in DFS, I think, this week. In terms of betting sides, again, another thing I want 0 to nothing to do with.
Let's get to Sunday Night Football. We have a Sunday night game and 2 Monday night games this week. Dolphins at the Patriots. Again, Eric, we got the better of the line on this one. We took the Patriots earlier in the week when they were +3 and even over 3 in some places. And now it's down to Miami -2.5 over under 46 in this one. The Dolphins lit it up. Incredibly passing game against the Chargers. But the Chargers defense was like historically bad in that game. The one thing I pointed out to you the other day. I'm going to give Tua credit. He's done a better job in his short NFL career than I ever thought that he would. He's in a great place to succeed with the weapons that he has around them. But I found this interesting. Last year, he was the number 1 quarterback in the league based on EPA when the defense made a mistake. If there was broken coverage or any mistake, Tua is smart. He's cerebral and he's accurate. He'll pick you apart. Where Tua struggles is he can't make deep throws. He can't make some of the harder throws and with some of the progressions. If it's 1 look, 2 look, and then it starts becoming physical stuff too. How big is he? He's got the left-handed throwing style, which you point out a bit. It's just different, right? It's a little bit awkward for your team and your line and your receivers, the way the ball comes out of it. All that being said, they're going to be playing against a much better defense this week. The Patriots, the last couple of years, they've been a fantastic defense. They held the Philadelphia Eagles team to like paltry offensive statistics. They outgained them in total yards, and the Patriots lost that game because of the 2 back-to-back turnovers on literal back-to-back plays that cost them 16 points. If that doesn't happen, they win the game last week against the Eagles. So, I mean, They
started up against it with that start to the game was an absolute brutal start to the game. I look at it like this. Belichick, 41-18, 69% off a loss. Look, without Brady, he's 64-7. So you're going to get a great effort here. I got this at 3, but we need to kind of think about betting right now. If people lose, and what are they going to do in the Sunday night game? They're going to bet the Dolphins. We could get a 3. So if you missed out on the 3 that Gino and I gave out earlier in the week on his podcast, just chill out because I think this number is going to move back up. I think we're going to be able to get a 3 a little closer to kickoff. Foxborough, extremely wet. It's been raining there. Could see some rain today, but it did rain yesterday and Friday in Massachusetts. That's going to be a soggy field. You're going from playing a fast turf to soggy grass. That's going to make it a little bit slower for this Miami team with the electric playmakers of Tua and Jalen Waddle. Also, Armstead trending toward playing. However, if he does play, he's not going to be 100%. I think they're going to be able to get to Tua, get him a little bit off key, throw him in some bad throws. And I think they're going to lean on this run game. I think that they're going to be able to run the ball on this Dolphins defense. I'll take the Packers here plus the 3 points.
The Patriots here plus the 3.
All over the place, man.
I was going to say, no worries. Patriots were plus 3 a little earlier. We both got that number. They're 2.5 or so right now. But as we mentioned, you can wait on that one because I think it's going to float back up. The Patriots moved the ball against a much better Philadelphia defense last week, and they should be able to move the ball fine against the Dolphins here. Panthers and Saints as we move to Monday Night Football. So the Panthers are a 3-point home dog. Saints are 3-point favorite on the road. The Panthers defense played well, holding the Falcons to less than 225 total yards, but the 3 turnovers cost them the game. 2 interceptions. The Falcons scored 17 off those. Wasn't really impressed with Young. A lot of the yards came after the catch. He had a bunch of throwaways. His size does look to be a little bit of a problem. And I feel a little bad for him. He doesn't have a number 1 receiver. He doesn't have that target, that guy he can lean on to just really make his life easy. The Saints, though, it's not as if I was really impressed with them, Eric, because Tennessee played so poor in that game. If Tannehill doesn't have the 3 turnovers and miss a couple bad throws, I think Tennessee would probably have won the game against the Saints by a touchdown or pretty comfortably there. So I'm not exactly sure what to do with this game. You have a home dog in a divisional game. Do you have any play in here?
God, I want to take the Panthers somehow.
I do too, but I'm going to wait. I
want to wait. If this gets over 3, look.
That's what I'm waiting for.
Panthers did struggle stopping the run. Miller, the rookie from TCU, obviously there's no props yet. posted. Maybe we'll get some Miller props later on, but right now this is just, I'm in a holding pattern right now.
And there's a
I'm
tease,
wait and hold. Yeah,
a tease for when we talk about the Monday parlay play props. You talked about Miller. I'm going to talk about one of your guys from last year from Detroit, who I think is going to have a big bounce back game. And I'm going to talk about Jamal Williams as a little tease for one of my parlay plays for Monday. Erik, let's get into our final game. This is the second of the Monday night games. It's the Browns at the Steelers. For the Browns, you have a very, very impressive week 1 victory. Weather was wet. They beat the crap out of the Bengals. They've had really good success against the Bengals. Coming out of that game, though, Watson didn't look incredible. He ran pretty well. Sounds like Amari Cooper is going to be out. Conklin out. One of their key offensive linemen. Now, they do still have a very good offensive line, and they have a rookie who filled in and played well. The dude is 6'8", 375 pounds. That's the guy, the rookie offensive lineman for the Browns. A big boy, filled in. But he's not Conklin. No, there are a few. He's one of your better offensive linemen that are out there. It, to me, just feels like a fantastic spot for the Steelers, right? The Steelers were so bad in week 1. Everybody saw them get their asses kicked. And it's funny because they were one of the real buzzy teams coming out of the preseason that folks thought that they would really take a step forward this year. I was one of them. It wasn't based solely on the preseason. It was based on schedule and little adjustments here and there, but so disappointing with them last week. Couple small things that I'm gonna highlight though. If we're worried about their offensive line just a bit in this game, Erik, because they're going to be missing a key piece and they're going to have a new younger player starting, where is the best focus of the Pittsburgh Steelers? Where are they the strongest, right? The defensive front, right?
You're going to start him. Obviously, he was a fourth round draft pick. I mean, just the kind of, we just kind of look at the trends. Tomlin, 34-24 off a loss. As a dog, 51-20-3, 64.6%. Home dog, 15-5-3 ATS at 75%. Obviously, you mentioned Conklin hurt, which is big. Deontay Johnson's banged up. Cooper's banged up. But the thing when you look at Stefanski is 6-13 ATS against the rest of the AFC North.
Besides the Bengals, right?
1-5 against Tomlin. Tomlin has historically owned him here. I'm high on this Browns team, but that was
just a bad spot. Yeah.
Tatum, Tomlin, primetime spot. Expect the offense to be better. But I'm going to say it, and it's kind of funny because Antonio Brown actually tweeted this out, and I actually agree with them 100%. If the Steelers lose this game, Matt's on his way to Canada.
Oh, yes. I love that. I love that. Shout out Antonio Brown, because the stat that I gave you when we talked the other day, Matt Canada has been the offensive coordinator for a few years now. The Steelers have gone 36 consecutive games where they have not had 400 yards of offense. Mm-hmm. During that stretch, since the last time they had 400 yards of offense, there have been 269 different times when another team has had 400 total yards. Think about that. Yeah. 269 times where it's like, oh, hey, that week there were 7 teams that had 400 yards of offense. The next week there were 12 that had. Oh, hey, look, the Bengals had them 3 weeks in a row. This team hasn't had it one time in 3 years where they got to 400 yards of offense. That's hard to win consistently when you have to lean on your defense so much and you need so much from your defense and you're not getting that type of play.
I'm not a Pickett guy at all. I hate Kenny Pickett.
I know.
I hate Kenny Pickett, but I'll be honest. He's pretty athletic. He can run. I think they kind of misuse him a little bit more. I think they should do more RPOs with him running the ball. You got Najee Harris. I think you can lean on him a little bit in this game. Obviously, Pickens gets a lot of the love, but this is Deontay Johnson. He is the alpha in there. How is that going to add up? Maybe we can look to get into some Allen Robinson props if we
Yeah, you
dare.
mentioned Robinson. I threw in Austin, also Calvin Austin, who what I like is he lined up out wide and he can line up in the slot. They can use him in both spots. So maybe someone to throw in on a real deep DFS flyer if you're playing a lineup tomorrow. Both of us on the Steelers side here. Matt Canada, Antonio Brown's going to drive you up, buddy. You're going to have to ride. I will say that would be a long car ride going up to Canada with AB, man, because he's going to be all.
I think it'd be a funny car ride.
It'd be interesting, right? Entertaining, but I wouldn't want to be driving. I'll tell you that. I'll sit in the back seat. I don't want to be driving that car up to Canada. Eric, let's finish up this show talking some ParlayPlay. I want to pull up the ParlayPlay website and we can discuss a little bit about ParlayPlay. What's nice when you sign up, when you use our promo code, which is NFL Betting Blitz, you can get a deposit match bonus, and you can also get a free play right off the bat when you sign up. They'll give you like a $5 free play, and I can actually show the folks the free play that I made once I registered and once I signed up. So here we are. Boom. Here's a look at my history. So this is my play, Eric. It's a $5 parlay. And if I'm able to hit my 2-team parlay, I get a $15 win back. T. Higgins. And what I really like about ParlayPlay, what's cool, there are different ways you can play each player's prop, right? You can play it based on like yards. You can play it sometimes based on reception. This one is fantasy points. I think that's really cool. You can play some of them based on how many fantasy points a player will get, because sometimes overall that's a little bit more of a consistent floor if you feel like he might get a touchdown and a couple other receptions. I just feel like he's going to be someone that's targeted today. I think there might be something creative for him in the game plan to get him a touchdown, to get him 3 or 4 early looks on the first drive, get the ball in his hands in some space. I like T. Higgins today. Eric is one of mine. So my parlay for today, looking at ParlayPlay, T. Higgins to get more than 13.5 fantasy points. And my second was Drake London to get more than 45.5 receiving yards. He had no catches in week 1. I think for Arthur Smith, hearing all week about how they don't use their weapons, they don't take advantage of Pitts and London at all. I do think against Green Bay, they're going to need to throw the ball a little bit more. Last week, they didn't have to throw the ball at all. Carolina turned the ball over. Why are you worried about giving the ball away? For me, Eric, though, I mentioned I think he's going to have a big bounce back. So that's the one for me. 2 plays. It's a 2-prop parlay. Now, the free play, you're only allowed to use a 2-team parlay, but it's a free play. You get a $5 free play. You can parlay them together, and you can try to turn it in to $15. And you were going to tell us a little bit more about the free play, but you got one today, Eric. So dive on it.
I did. Very simple. I just parlayed DK Metcalf over 66.5 yards receiving. Look, last game against the Lions, 7 for 149. History against the Lions, averages 6.5 receptions, 106 yards per game. Obviously, I mentioned the Kadarius Toney drops. I really think that's adding into one of the this number being so low. DK played 94% of the snaps, leading them with a 28% target share. My next one, and I went deep for this one.
And what's nice too is just like as you're looking at the website here, all I do is start to type in Metcalf, and boom, he pops up with all of the options. 66.5 receiving yards. What is his long? 23.5, 5 receptions, 8.5 targets, 14.5 fantasy points. You can play any of those.
Yeah.
They're all options. That is awesome. Like that is why I like this site. All of the different options, because we don't have to force wagers that we don't really like.
No. And there's plenty of stuff you can dig through, find someone. And this one, I went deep. I went all the way to Arizona. I went Zach Ertz over 29.5 yards receiving. He leads the tards and targets, 33% target share. Dobbins historically targets the tight end. He's gone over this total in 3 of his last 5 games. With how the Giants play a lot of blitzing, Dobbs is going to look to get the ball out of his hands a lot, just a little dink and dunk. So that's what I did. Those are the 2 I did. Parlay those together, get a nice little ROI. Also, if you click up on free to play on the very top, we need to remember this is a free contest that every single week you can join
for actual cash prizes.
Actual cash prizes for Jamar Gibbs, historically for Jamar Chase, he historically balls out. I'm gonna take 107 plus here.
And this is a game where last week he was terrible. Last week he called the Browns elves, and then after the game he said, "Man, we lost to a bunch of elves. I can't believe that." But it was funny the way he said it. He wasn't like ripping on them. He said, "Man, I called them elves, and we just lost to the elves." And so I think that we're gonna get a big bounce back game from him and Higgins today, both.
I would actually take less in with Kenneth Walker. I think the Seahawks are going to pass the ball more. I take 268 to 306 with Josh Allen. Calvin Ridley, he had a huge game going over 100 yards. Obviously, if you think he's going to go over 100 yards, I'm going to take 83 to 93. I think that's where he's going to end up. I'm going to play the under with Herbie. I think they're really going to look to take away the passing attack, force Jonathan Taylor to beat him. Something I noticed, and we really noticed it with the Eagles, is running backs that have the quick turnaround. I want to start tracking the quick turnaround from the Sunday to Thursday game. I want to start tracking the Sunday game before. Swift doesn't play, and then he touches the ball 20 some odd games. Gainwell's nowhere to be found. I think we could see this here with CMC, so I'm going to play under 66.5 yards rushing, just something to track. And then with Dak, I'm going to play 224 to 257. Tyreek Hill, I'm going to play under. Boom. That's what I got.
And you submit, and you are in for the free contest each and every day. There's a free contest there. Is it each week or is it daily? Like for each Monday, week. Yeah. So it's an NFL week 2, week 3. So each week we'll be able to do that. Remember, as we're recording right now, you have about 35 minutes to get all of your wagers in, to get your DFS lineups finalized. NFL Betting Blitz is the promo code when you go sign up, deposit, use our promo code. That helps us out. But we are only showing you sites that we actually played through. Eric made sure that we could deposit withdrawal money. We're players ourselves. Like, these are all sites and accounts that we have. And then we make sure that we enjoy them. And then we start to share them with all of you out there, because we want to share. And we think a lot of you are like-minded. You like to play, you like to get some action, but you're looking for good value. And we're not someone who's ever trying to put you in a bad situation. We want to make sure that your money is in a good spot. And you can always trust that if we're promoting something, we've already tested it out ourselves. NFL Betting Blitz, that's the promo code. Anything else you want to mention about week 2, buddy?
No, let's make some money, cash some tickets, and we'll be back next week.
Good luck. Once again, if you're in the state of Iowa, if you know anyone in the state of Iowa, let them know about DRF Sportsbook and the promo code that we have, FAST350, will get you all the way up to a $350 deposit match bonus. Good luck in your plays, Eric. I will see you on Wednesday. Just to remind everyone out there, Eric and I talk football about 3 different times throughout the week. Eric actually has a show on Tuesday night where he has different guests, where he'll start to talk about major storylines from the previous week. Then on Wednesday, Eric and I dive into all of the betting lines, game by game. We have an early look at everything. That's Wednesday night. If you follow me on social media, I will always post that late Wednesday night or early Thursday. Then on Friday, 6:00 p.m. Eastern time, we have the winning ticket from DRF Sportsbook, where we give out best bets for college and for NFL. Eric, your podcast comes out usually late Thursday or into Friday. previewing stuff for the weekend. And then on Sunday, every Sunday, we'll be here at 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern time. So there's no excuses for folks out there. We have a ton of content all days like of the week almost. And what I like about the way we've done it this year is we are able to get different tidbits of information for each of our different shows, right? Wednesday, sometimes we don't exactly know what's going to happen, but then by Friday, we've got a little bit more movement. And then on Sunday morning, when we start, we know everything.
Yep. And then Texans just got a big boost. John Michie, who missed his entire rookie season.
Awesome. Cancer, right?
Yeah, leukemia. He's going to be active today. So
shout out, man. And that is one of those things that gives them a big boost. I bet you his teammates are going to be really pumped. Like, watch him out there. If he catches a pass, they are going to go nuts for him. Yeah. They are going to they're going to be so excited for him. And I got goosebumps right now as someone who is a cancer survivor. I love seeing these kinds of stories and seeing people able to overcome that. So good luck to him. And we are on the Texans today. Good luck to all of you out there. Make sure to join us again very soon. And thanks so much to Sports Facts, I Hate the Lakers, to Let's Make Some Money, all of you out there in the chat. We love interacting with all of you. Hope you have a great Sunday.